This company's never been more profitable.
You mean hugely profitable?
I like it.
DavePorter.com presents The Profitable Cleaner, a podcast on commercial cleaning sales and entrepreneurship. The one podcast that's not afraid to discuss real sales strategies with real cleaning professionals that produce real profits and real results.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Profitable Cleaner. Today we got a bull in the pen with us. We're going to run around the corral, like he likes to say. We got Mr. Mark Anderson. Welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you here.
Thanks. Excited to be here, guys.
Guys, if you guys don't know, look at his LinkedIn. Follow him, Mark Anderson. I mean, this guy is a legend in the commercial cleaning space and also going to be a speaker here for the Cleaning Profits Mastermind. Basically, Mark, do you mind just, we know your story a little bit, but if you could give us a quick synopsis and just brag about yourself for a little bit, what would that sound like?
Okay, well, I'll be quick since I already shot 8 minutes screwing around trying to get the video fixed for you guys. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I started the business in 75, 74 with nothing, $5,000 loan. I finished in the industry after 40 years of successfully operating it with 300 full-time people, 12 office staff, 6 strategic partners. We had a consulting, a franchising, and a regular cleaning company that at that point in time was a facility services company, and we were doing about $13 million a year when we sold. There's the Reader's Digest.
So if you want to learn from him, come to our mastermind. That's it for the episode. I'm just kidding, imagine. No, so let me ask you something, Mark. You said something really cool. A $5,000 loan in 76, you said?
Actually, the loan, let's call it, I got to think through all this. I should have looked up the dates. It's on my LinkedIn if you want the exact dates. We'll call it 70. Let's see, college. I got to stop and think through this. Let's just call it 75, okay?
Okay.
I might be.
Yeah, you're right. LinkedIn says 74, so there you go.
There you go.
Question: if we were to grab the 5,000 and bring it to 2022, how much would that be? Like, how do you say this? Like, would it be like 15,000, 20,000?
The current value of money is what you're looking for. Without a calculator, if we took 3% a year, just as a regular rate of inflation, what is that? 40-something years. That's 120%. $5,000
like $50,000 loan.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's without doing the exponential on it. Yeah.
Well, just to start, the reason I say that is $5,000 in 74 to build a commercial cleaning company. I don't know how many people, and I think you've seen it, Mark, are getting the space and they're not even down to take out a $2,000 credit card to start their business, and then they complain they don't get the business. So let me ask you, what were some of those key sauce or those key secrets, Mark, that took you from $5,000 loan to growing it to 13 million?
Full disclosure, my first 3 years in college, I worked for another cleaning company, and I worked my way up through from cleaning buildings to floors to windows to supervisor to managing. So I got to see a microcosm of how all of this works. So I got everything, bidding, sales. I didn't get it all. So I had a very good base about the industry. I got in because when I got out of college, it was kind of like this. Well, guy offered me a job. I wouldn't make any more working anywhere else, so why not? And that job was a killer. It was $850 a month, expenses and gas, and all the commission I could make.
And what was that?
Nice.
That was for what industry? Cleaning?
Cleaning. It was the company.
Yeah.
They're still around. It's called Environmental Control.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what's
They're
interesting? We've had the top podcast guests, so most successful in the space, at least that I know personally, all worked for another cleaning company and/or building services contractors, or we've even heard like commercial property managers that oversee the facility maintenance. Why do people skip that? I mean, do you feel like people should skip that? Shouldn't skip that? Does that really matter?
I think they skip it because there's not a big barrier to entry in this business. I can go out to Home Depot Pro, buy a few things, toss it, and this is what I did, and toss it in the back of my car, a whole different thing, and go out and get business. And what they're good cleaners. Well, we use Michael Gerber's email, and you wind up with entrepreneurs or cleaners or artisans that get an entrepreneurial fit. Well, this is great. I got two of my friends' businesses. I can build a business out of this. And they don't understand that you've got finance, you've got operations, you've got systems. I can go down the list of things you have to run a business, and you've got to have a smattering of all that. So they jump in because of the low entry barrier, and then they get in it and want to grow and don't realize I don't know the first thing about running a business. And I get a lot of this when I do SCORE. I'm a SCORE mentor. I have been for 4 years and mentored about 200 people, everything from I don't have an idea all the way to a little under $1 million, because SCORE is the SBA's help. It helps people get started, and then you move into the SBA, and there's another one that works with you after you get a certain size. But it's a common problem, and it isn't just this industry. People don't understand or look into what it takes to run a business.
You know what? You said something really interesting, and I think, like James, me and you have been able to start businesses not outside of the commercial, like marketing, software, things like that. The barrier to entry in a commercial cleaning is much, much lower than it is to start, something like a SaaS company or something like that. But when you get inside of it, it almost sounds like the barriers to success in commercial cleaning are much, much higher than if you go to another industry, including margins alone. But I mean, what are some of those barriers you would say, like, that a commercial cleaning, let's say before 2 million, run into a lot of the times that you're like, yeah, you got to be prepared for these?
Yeah, you can run the first $1 million pretty much out of your wallet and a credit card. I mean, it's in today's $1 million. That used to be you can run your first $500,000 or $250,000, but today the equivalent of that's about $1 million of business. And it's not tough. You have a few employees, you can get QuickBooks, run things through. You can survive. When you start to scale, you have to have and this, I'm preaching what everybody else preaches in the coaching space. You have to have a process. You have to have systems for everything you do, and it breaks down to what are my HR processes, what are my finance or my money processes, right? What are my training and selection of people? What are my operations, and what's my S&M, my sales and marketing? And even if it's on the back of a napkin and 3 key points, you've got to have something together to do all those. And here's the trick. When you get into that, you're now cleaning the building, right? I know this from firsthand experience. I'm cleaning the building. I'm changing in the restroom. I'm going out and making cold calls. I'm changing again, going to class. I'm studying. Then I'm getting out and I'm cleaning the building at night, and thus it goes around. And you don't think through the processes. And it's running a business. And again, to level the playing surface, they know people have a tendency not to look into running a business. I can clean. I've got a few jobs. I'm doing a great job. I'm going to open a company. I'm going to scale. And I think a lot of, I'm going to be contrarian here. A lot of the garbage, in my opinion, on the internet, I'm going to 10X you. I'm going to do this. They're not talking about our business. That's software. Those are disruptive technologies. We don't live in a disruptive technological environment. We live in a service environment. We got to run people, train people, manage people, run the accounts, and all that takes, those are all different skill sets. And, I can say, I'm not going to 10X anything. You know what? I'm going to give you the tools. It's up to you. But we get misled. And I think the technology side, and we watch all these other spaces jump, but it's a slow go. It takes 18 months to get a client on general in this business, and that's one under 10,000 a month. It's a journey, customer value journey. I think you're going to have somebody on I know named Daryl talk about that.
Who is
but
that
it's
guy?
I don't know, some clown that dissed me an email last night, but we'll leave that alone. I think he called me cheap, but we'll we'll leave that.
Hey,
So
full disclosure, Daryl's his son, and he will be a speaker. Just so people are like, damn, they're like talking bad about other speakers in the podcast. Um, you know, oh man, I'm pretty sure, James. I'm pretty sure you already have a load of questions, and I do too. I'm not even gonna be a question. It's just gonna be reiterate what you just said. Average sales takes 18 months. Don't ask yourself if you're listening to this. Are you a cleaner or are you a business owner? I think you're right. A lot of people automatically like, I clean one building, therefore I'm an entrepreneur. Therefore you're like, no, not really. That's not how it works, right? It's a hobby. It's, I don't know who said it. I think it said Milet, or I don't know who it was. It's like, it's a hobby until it makes you money. Until you're actually able to do big things with it. Until then, it's a hobby, which is really interesting. But you're saying low barrier of entry, but then once you get in, you have to be committed to the long run in this space. Like, if you're not going to be committed to at least 10 years here, or 5-10 years, this is going to be probably like the worst time for you, isn't it?
it's going to be tough, and you've got to have some source of finance. You've got to be able to get a hold of some money, whether it's your credit cards and you're going to pay those interest rates. You've got backing. I've talked to a lot of people, they're coming out of another industry. They happen to have savings, or they've got a home equity loan, or they've got something that they can get a line of credit and operate. But you've got to have money to grow. I don't care how, ask anybody as big as they are. They all have money. They all have cash. They've got reserves. Reserves are set aside for CapEx projects, particular growth things. So you've got to have money to grow. So if you don't have money to grow, you're not going to grow. I think the other mistake people make in the lower, when you're around $1 million, $1.5 million, they start going after projects they're not qualified for, and they burn a lot of time and energy. I get this all the time. Well, I'm going to put a bid on a 200,000 square foot job, blah, blah, blah. How many of those do you have? None. What's your biggest job? 25,000 square feet. My question is, why would I hire you? The biggest thing you're doing isn't 8 hours a night, and you want to take a 3-person job. There's ways around that, which I'll talk about at another time. There's ways to look bigger than you are, kind of like the peacock. Okay, you can look colorful and big and impressive, but that's for another topic or discussion. But they go after things. Go after what you're capable of doing. And as you scale that thing, if I'm doing 25,000, start looking at accounts that are 50,000 square feet. Got a couple 25s. What do I have? I got 50,000 square foot of work, right? But they get all excited and they go after all this stuff. And it takes a lot to do a bid. I don't care if you've got the software or what you have by the time you chase the customer, build the relationship, get on the bid list. And you're not the only person on the bid list. Okay. You're not the only guy or gal walking the building. So if there's 10 of you there, your goal is make the short list. I get to the top 3. Now I'm on the short list. Now I got a 33% chance of making the deal if I am now a good salesperson. So if I've got that far, now I've got to be able to close the deal. So there again, we get back into skill sets. So as you're growing your business, build your skill sets, or have the money to hire someone who has the skill sets you don't have. That's one of the ways I survived as I got bigger. I hired people that could do what I didn't do and wasn't good at. I could have cared less about becoming an accountant. And quite frankly, I stink at it. I can read a P&L and a balance sheet and an investment for investments and stuff, but you don't want me in your accounting area doing the debits and the credits. What, James?
No, I just think you're hitting on such value right now. You're talking about working on your business versus in your business. I have a few questions for you here, Mark, so bear with me. One, you really know the industry numbers, and that's what I appreciate about you, the 18 months to sign on a big client. You've talked about, just on separate calls with us, profit margins. I want to start there. You're $1 million company. You're a $5 million company. Let's talk about some of the profit margins, what you can expect. I think there's a lot of people listening to this that say, hey, I'm doing $110,000 a month, reoccurring revenue. I'm $1 million company. That sounds sexy. It's not always that sexy. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the up and coming janitor that's listening. That's like, what can I expect in terms of profit, take home? What should you pay yourself? Just kind of, when I throw those general principal numbers out to you, what kind of comes to mind, and what can you tell us?
Well, what comes to mind is one of my favorite sayings, and I think I've used it in one of our past conversations when we've met. Revenue for vanity, profit for sanity, and cash is still king.
I gotta
don't
write
care.
that down. You said that multiple times, and every time you say it, I'm like, damn it, I wish I wrote it down.
Yeah,
Hold
say
on.
say that one more
Say it.
time for the people in the back, Mark.
Yeah, you can look it up on the internet. It's all over. It's not mine. Revenue for sanity, or revenue for vanity, profit for sanity, cash is king. Okay? And it's true. I talked to companies doing 5 million that were not profitable. Well, great. I always talk profit first, and there's a book out called Profit First. If you haven't read it, Michael, somebody, I can never pronounce his last name, but he's written the Pumpkin Plan.
Michael Wicks.
Yeah,
Wicks,
Michael
someone
Wicks.
tell you that? Yeah.
You want to understand, go pick up Profit First. Do yourself a favor and read that. Now, he's a little extreme on some of what he says, but I would rather have a high profit company than a big revenue company any day of the week.
Absolutely.
And
Really
the other
need the bombs in here. Like, poof. That's a nice sound effect.
The other thing I like, a friend of mine had a buddy that he told me about somebody he knew that went to Harvard Business College. And the first day in the finance class, the professor stands up and says, if you don't remember anything out of your entire career here and you're going to run a company, remember this. DROOC. Don't run out of cash. He said, if you take nothing away from your time, don't run out of cash, because we can't do anything. And if we don't have cash, we don't have leverage and to build our business. And then we have to, the credit card's a fine way to do things if you're bootstrapping it, but the interest will kill you. The cost of money is horrible. What, 17 to 20% on your money?
Yeah.
But if you've got some cash, you got a little bit behind you, you might get a small bank behind you. There's all kinds of places that you can get reasonable cash. It's still high interest rates, and they're all over the place now, at 12, 13%. You're not going to get great rates unless you've got, banks loan money to people who don't need it. Let's face it.
Yep.
They want to make sure that you've got enough AR to back it.
What's like a reasonable salary someone should be paying themselves, Mark? I know that depends on revenue range, but like you're $1 million company, like what's a typical owner salary? What's the profit take home at that point? Like,
now you're going to think now you're going to think I'm dodging your question. You're going to love it. It depends. It depends on how I've structured my company, how well I manage my company. But if I've got $1 million company, basically 60%, maybe 60, and you've got low overhead at that point. So we don't have to worry about that. So I'll take the basic, any industry small business standard. Okay, I should be getting all of my cost of goods sold, and then we can get into a whole topic of what do we put in cost of goods sold. That gets to be a discussion of itself. What chart of accounts, what I list in my cost of goods sold. But I've got to produce that work, and in our sense, the services, at about 60%. Read any book, it'll tell you 60%. That leaves you 40%, what they call gross operating margin. Out of that, I've got to pay everything else, my commissions, my offices, all my different insurances, not my L&I, that goes on the top line and things like that. So then at the end of the day, I should pay myself out of that. And at the very end, I should do that inside of 30%, and I should have 10% profit left over. Now, I may or may not. It depends on how good and how well I bid my buildings.
Yeah.
If I skin the cat too close and I can't operate that against bid, then I'm not going to have 10%. Now I got to figure out how to make that, which we can talk about on another podcast. What do you do when you underbid a building? You've got it. Now how do you make the rest of your money? And it's called upsell, cross-sell, and bundle. Your current customers are some of your best prospects, and people don't understand that.
Rumor has it that's what you're going to be talking about over here.
That's the rumor.
Profits, man. That's the rumor. I don't know. I just work here, so.
Yeah. Well, that's the topic we agreed on, so we'll see how it goes. But the hidden diamond mine on your property. Your property is your business asset. or diamonds under the soles of your shoes, to steal a Paul Simon, little misquoted, but it's on the soles of your shoes. But there is a ton of money that entrepreneurs do not mine out of their current business. And they miss the opportunity. Lifeblood of a business is always, I need new revenue and I need to improve my profits with it. But new revenue comes from inside your current, and I'm not going to get into that. That's what we'll talk about at the seminar. Yeah. But it's left. I did 10% over my monthly recurring revenue in extra services to my current clients. So I was doing 1.3 mil a year extra.
Well, and then that impacts, exactly, that impacts like direct profit. At the moment that you already earned the contract, when you're cross-sell and upsell, your profit automatically goes up with it, right? And then your customer acquisition cost goes down technically. So it all works out. Yeah. Not a lot of people, but you're right. I don't think even like in all the Facebook groups, all the events that we've attended, every time we talk to someone, it's always new business or retained clients, but rarely do a lot of people bring up the upsell and cross-sell the current clients that you have.
Yeah, good, excellent point. The keeping or retention of clients is called customer lifetime value, and I can give you a real simple overview. But let's just say I have this discussion with a lot of people. If you happen to know how long you keep your customers, that's your customer lifetime value. So if I know how long I sell a customer, I know on average how long I keep them. Let's just say that's 3 years. And let's just say, for sake of argument, I make $100. This is simple math on each of them a year. That's $300. Third year, I lose them. What do I have to do when I lose a customer? Got to replace them. Now we got to look at the cost of acquiring, acquisition, the cost of leads, the cost of acquisition, the whole thing. Then we got to look at the cost of the startup. So one, when I replace that, I'm not replacing it with an account at the same profit level I've already learned in 3 years how to get out of that company. What if I kept that one more year? Let's just say I put some PR stuff in place and I put a few reports in place and I built my relationship better with my client. Well, now I've got $400. So in the fourth year, rather than replacing that, I've made $100 or 25% more profit than I would have had I lost. That's customer lifetime value.
Exactly.
And on my clients, my clients were an average size of 11 to 12,000 a month. I kept them 11 years. So I didn't have to rely a lot on increasing my revenues big time every year, because and those same group of customers, I upsold 10% more in services. And this is not a new model. I'll tell you, ABM built their business on this.
Yeah.
They're absolute masters of that. Yeah. And so are all the big guys. ISS, they all understand this stuff.
Mark,
go ahead, James.
I guess 2 questions for you. Do you remember how long it took you to get to the $1 million mark, and then maybe the 5 and then the 10, those kind of big milestones? I don't know if you remember that or not. And then at what point did you gear up and switch from growth mode to like, hey, I might want to sell this business someday? Like at what point or was that always the intention?
Nope. You've got about 6 good questions in those 2. Do I really remember? My first account was $25 a week. Okay, I cleaned a bicycle shop, and the guy argued with me every week it wasn't clean. My next big account, I cleaned a restaurant for $750 a week, and I went to the cash station every week and got my cash for cleaning the restaurant. I would say, I started really with absolutely nothing. And I had to figure all this out. And yeah, I went to school, but school doesn't teach all this stuff. I don't care. I know guys that have masters that can't run businesses, for Pete's sake. And that's no disrespect to the institution or anything else. They're different skill sets. And they've started teaching entrepreneurship, but you don't know till you do it. Sorry, you just don't know. I would say from the time I opened the doors, I was probably, now this was a whole different market. We didn't have all the stuff you have to reach out to people today. There was no technology. My technology was a tank of gas, business cards, and my fist so I could knock on the door and ask who's in charge of the janitor service. And would they come out and see me? Okay. That's how I built the business. And that's still a valid way to do it today, I'll tell you. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
enough.
you can still do it. There's ways to do it. There's a lot more roadblocks. But I would say I probably took 7 years. But remember, I cleaned everything. I did all. Probably the first 3 years, I did everything in the business there was to do except clean the buildings. And I had a little accounting service. It was a friend of mine that did he was a CPA guy, and he did the books as a friend to us, as a friend of the family. So, he'd go, here you go. He'd do the
What
P&L, and do this. So
what kept you going? Because 7 years, 1 million. I mean, that's not. If you think about it, that's like a little what?
well, from nothing.
150?
I knew no one. I had no connections. Nothing. I mean, I didn't start with, hey, let me introduce you to my father's friend over here who's wanting something.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I literally knocked on doors and built it. 7 might be a stretch, but I would say 5 to 7. Just thinking that's a good question, James. I just haven't thought about that. After the first million, I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. There's good money in this. I can see it. And we started to scale. I was probably at 3 million. From that point, I probably got to 3 million in 2 years, 2 to 3 years. And then 3 to 5, I did in another 2 to 3 years. And then 5 to 7 and 8 came pretty quickly because the accounts started, the whole scaling and who we were and how we did business changed. So we wouldn't take an account unless it was 8 hours a day. We wouldn't touch it. We would only deal with high technology, at that time, medical, hospitals, plant sanitation, things that were so tied into somebody's business it had to get done, and there were usually better margins. High technology clean rooms and all that stuff's changed. Everybody's in it. Margins have been squeezed to the basement. But so we really niched. And if we look for manufacturing clients, that the cleaning was important to the production of their product and the people in the building. Not necessarily true in commercial properties. In an office building, the property manager has one goal: make money. And one of the bigger expenses, and talk to Ed Selkow, he did very well in those. So we're just two different sides of a coin on where there's success. You can find it everywhere, but we did it by niching down and going a different direction because I couldn't get into the market; it was too tight, the competition. So we found a way around it. Does it make sense?
100%.
Totally.
The more I talk, again, we've had some awesome guests. We have some awesome guests, right? But the more I talk to the ones that made it, whether it's got acquired for millions, still in the business, retired, and make a buttload of money. But the ones that have that passion, it's almost like they knew they were in it for the long haul. So it took you went for it, and then after 7 years, you're like, cool, this is what I want. So I just want to make sure I highlight that, not as a question, but just for those listening, if you've been in the business for a year and a half and complaining that you don't have 15 subcontractors, 30 staff, and the only building you want to get is 5,000, like if you've never closed a $500 and then you want to close a 5,000, and if you've never had a 10,000 but you want to go after $1 million square foot, like the proof is in the pudding, and don't reinvent the wheel. Like I love that one. Like if it's not broken, just do it. My biggest mentor is find somebody that's already doing it, trace the steps, follow the steps, and then just control the output that you put in. And it's obviously that's what I keep hearing as a trend, and the knowledge that you guys have. I do have to ask though. Somebody says, I don't know, James and Angel, you guys keep bringing these guests, but they've been around since 1976. I don't know why I did that accent, but they've been around from 1976. I'll never know what they know. Well, back then there was no access to information like now. So I have to ask you the question, Mark. If you had to start all over again, or if you had to consult some of these cleaners, how can they decrease the the knowledge gap between someone like you and Ed Selko and Alex Melgar? Like, how can decrease that gap if they just like they're 2-3 million and they know that they're committed to the space, but they're lacking knowledge, processes, systems. Man, what's the best way to knowledge that gap? Or knowledge that gap doesn't even work, to
Close the knowledge
shorten the gap. Yes, shorten the knowledge gap.
I'll give BSCAI a plug here. Building service contractors. We learned a lot of technical things joining them. As a matter of fact, the Marsden purchased our company. Everybody knows that if you've read it. And that's still operated as an entity out here in the Northwest, a brand name through them. And we just celebrated our 40th year in BSCAI, CBM Systems. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot of technical things.
Define technical.
How to bid, how to run a business. I mean, we knew how to run a business, but we would get in there, and you need to be a reasonable size to get in there to make some sense. But the people would talk with you, and we'd sit at tables with people running $10-20 million businesses. And then we talked to them afterwards. We talked to them at the events. The real value in that thing was running into people at the cocktail hour, at the dinner hour, and talking business and listening to what they're doing, and then going to the seminars and listening how they did it. I didn't get all of it there. I've told you guys, I got a whole lot outside the industry. I was kind of a maverick that way. I didn't look just to the industry. I don't believe you'll find everything you want looking to your industry. You got to get outside and see what other people are doing to make things happen. So I did a ton of seminars. Back then you had to do seminars, Now I can dial something up. I can buy a training program on any one of the training systems and get it. And then, of course, the upsell is if I like it, I can contact the teacher, and the teacher will be happy to upsell me to coaching sessions or group coaching sessions, which is great. But none of that existed. And we spent a lot of money to go to seminars. We went to seminars. I spent, was it Greg Daniels, I think is what the system I learned how to bid with. This is back in the early 80s. I spent $1,400 for his seminar and all the airfare and the 3 days to fly. And I didn't have $1,400. I had enough room on my credit card. So if you're going to take a risk, use the knowledge, but know what you're going to take. There is just a plethora of stuff going on out here. And I'll get on Ed's soapbox here a bit, Ed Selkow. And full disclosure, Ed Selkow, Sharon Cowan, and myself, we have a LLC or a consulting company called Janitorial Growth Alliance. So we've spent a lot of time in the last 3 or 4 years working together, testing different things and doing stuff. There are a lot of people out there you shouldn't be listening to. And I'm not holding myself up as the guy you should listen to by any means. But there's a lot. Unfortunately, the more information you have, the more you got to get your BS detector out or sifter, whatever you want to call it, and figure out, is this making sense? Is this the right thing? Am I getting all the pieces? And there's just a lot of good stuff out there for free too. But I'm probably going to insult somebody saying this, but probably one of the most frustrating things I ever did is we ran a Facebook group for 2 years. And we just had to abandon that. I just told Ed and Sharon, I can't take any more of this. If somebody asks me how to bid a building, we tell you, go out and buy Ed's book. Go buy somebody's book. Learn how to do this stuff. Quit asking people in a Facebook group that give anywhere from 25 cents a square foot to $125 a square foot. For the love of God, you don't even know if the information you're getting is coming from the right place. And that's no disrespect. Honestly, if I've insulted somebody that's giving out that information, I'm sorry. I apologize more on Facebook than I had to. That's why I got off. You either want to hear it, or you want to hear it or you don't.
Well, here you don't have to apologize, man. I always tell people, would you rather be nice or would you rather be truthful, right? There's some areas where you have to be just straight up. And one of the biggest things is, and I learned this from like the biggest mentors, is like they'll question whatever you say just to question you, just to see how much actual research knowledge or how much you try to find the source, right? How much are you trying to go and look at the source and learn? But yeah, most people, the Facebook crowd is tough when all they do is they post and they're like 5,000 square feet, What do I quote? And then you're like, no, there's even we know that there's much more to it.
Well, and and I know you have to give stuff away. Believe me, I lost my mind when I first came in the consulting business and this thing 7 years ago, because in the world I grew up, you didn't give anything away. You wanted knowledge, you paid for it. I don't care if it was a seminar, a set of cassettes. Now I'm really aging myself. Set of CDs. You paid for that information. You didn't get it free. And it took me 2 or 3 years to get my head around, okay, we got to give out good information. We got to prove ourselves. We've got to get authority. That was you talk about a 180 from where I came from. But you have to do it. But the thing is, you don't get enough to make it work. You get enough to understand that the information's there. But understanding what to do and the how to do it are two different things. I can tell you what to do all day. The secret sauce is getting up to the table, whoever you like, whoever you follow, and pay for the how to. Right?
Agreed.
I can give you what I can stand. You can put me on for an hour and I can tell you how to do everything. I can tell you what to do. Take these steps, start calling your customers and start selling more carpet cleaning, start selling more windows, start selling landscape services. I'm not a landscaper. Well, you have anybody in your community that does good landscaping? I do. Well, go knock on their door and say, hey, let's partner. I know I've got 20 buildings. I know all these people and they all have landscaping. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll introduce you. You work under me, you sub. I mean, you guys know the drill. And I'll take 15% and you do the work and handle everything. I'll take 15% all day long and let somebody else do the work and take the liability and have a good partnership. We did that.
Absolutely.
All day long. And the majority of that money, I said, we did that 1.3 million. That was all done. And they weren't subs. These people were strategic alliance partners with us. We tested them. We knew who they were. Sure. We worked together for years. I had one did $750,000 with us 1 year. I mean, just him. And the years changed. When I say we did 1.3, that's an average. I mean, heck, we had years we did 20% if we knocked off a big job or came into a big painting contract or whatever. Were we a painting company? No. Did we know one who did? Yes. Did we trust them? Yes. Absolutely. Did we work together? Yes. And big jobs, we do a $60,000 job. I'd get 8% for doing it and talking to our team would, and he did all the work. I was happy to give him 92% of that because he's got all the labor, the cost, the risks. If it doesn't work, he's got to go back. We just got to talk to the customer. That's not a bad payday. You take 8% of $60,000. That goes right to our bottom line, short a little talking cost to the customer, and if there's any problems. So that you can do all of that. But again, I think I've said this before, your best prospect is your current customer, because if you're doing the work, if you're performing, if you've built a relationship, okay, they are 17 times more likely to purchase your services than someone from the outside, because we've already got the know, like, and trust established. And when that's a given, you can't overcharge them. You can't burn them. You've got to be market value. But you get the job. I mean, who would you rather deal with? Somebody you've been working with for 5 years that's going to bring it in with a trusted partner, or somebody you don't know other than references?
Agreed.
Let me just repeat that for those that didn't hear that fully. Your current customers are 17% more likely to already buy from you.
17 times. Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
It's just,
no, that's
and
huge.
that's hyperbole, but that's what you can pick that up anywhere. And the other thing is, people buy from who they know, like, and trust. That's only half the equation. If you Google this thing, you will find that the original statement, and I forget the man's name, I looked it up for a seminar we did because I wanted to my coach said, that's a bunch of bunk. I said, why? And when he was done with me, I said, that's a bunch of bunk. Because where that statement comes from, the front end of that, all else being equal, people purchase from those who they know, like, and trust. And I think I've done this with you. I think I know I've done this with you guys. You ever bought it? You bought a car, right? Both of you bought a car, right? Did you know?
Yeah.
Now, save a friend. Did you know the person you bought it from?
Nope.
Did you really trust him?
Not really.
Okay. Kind of. So you really didn't know
Kind
him.
of.
Kind of. You kind of trusted him enough to give him your money. Did you like him? Just enough to get the deal you wanted and get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. Enough to,
Correct.
So this no like and trust business in my mind is a bit of a misnomer because the level playing field is all else things being equal. In our business, that's your quality systems, your hiring, your bidding, your pricing, your ability to perform. You've got validation from your references or your referrals that you can perform. Now with that equal, now they're going to go who they like. Well, how do they know, like, and trust you? Now we get into what marketing are you doing in front of yourself. And I'll say it, in the old days, that marketing was the salesman. The salesman built all that. I mean, you called on people. Some accounts I bid 2 and 3 times before I won them. But you would call on people. You might have coffee. You might have lunch. You get on the phone and say, "Hey, James, long time since we've talked. I'm just making this." You can't get away with this today because people answered their phone then. "I'm checking in. I know you're bidding in a few months. How are things going? Where are you? How are things?" You'll talk about them. What's going on with you out there? What's on your mind today? Now, well, I'm just checking in. Yep, you're on the list. Okay, great, fine, thank you. Now, all that's done through marketing. All that's done through automated marketing, CRMs. You build your authority, you build your trust, and you start building. You can't cap it. The salesperson caps it. But all that initial stuff now can get done a lot cheaper than it ever could because there is marketing. And I hate the word because digital marketing, there's no such thing as digital marketing anymore. For the love of Henry, it's all digital. What do you do that isn't digital? I guess if you send some snail mail or make a phone call. And if the phone call is going over AT&T, you're digital. So,
and then you follow up with an email.
Yeah.
exactly. Or
Can I have your email now?
You track your website.
You track your website numbers. That's Daryl's business there. Go ahead, Angel. Sorry. These guys get me out. I told you we're running around the track.
No, we're gonna Daryl. Yeah, I look 3 horses in a corral. I don't know if I'm a horse or a bull. That would be interesting to find. A goat, maybe.
I don't care.
Anyways,
it's just a bunch of people running around. That's when you get your best conversations.
Agreed. Honestly, like, part of me in the beginning was like, you know what, I'm gonna set an agenda for this, and then as soon as you started speaking, I was gonna selfish ask questions that I want to learn that hopefully our audience appreciates. Which, sure they are. Now I have to ask you the magical question because we're running into time here.
Yep.
1. If you haven't gotten your ticket for any profits, the master is going to do some amazing stuff for you, so you might want to be there. And wait till we get started with Daryl as well. It'll be amazing. There's gonna be some good stuff there. And we have the agenda and everything, which I know we emailed it to you, so you'll love it. But I gotta ask, somebody jumps in here, they search up, they're like, interesting. VM systems, sold company, president of the Profit Growth Initiative, commercial contractor consultant. Interesting, for real. They say, you know what? I'm gonna test this guy first. I'm gonna see if he's worth listening to. So I'm gonna skip the whole podcast. I'm gonna listen to the last sentence that he says, the last piece of advice he would have to give. And I'll see if I listen to a podcast. What would that piece of advice be?
My last piece of advice would be, if you don't love what you do in this industry, find another industry. It's a tough industry, but it's very fulfilling. It's full of good people, hardworking people, and do what you do and do it well. Operate inside your limits. We all have limits. I mean, I wasn't running multi-million-dollar contracts 7 years out. Be patient. People get their breaks, and we got our break. When we got our first near $1 million account in the 80s. Work the breaks, work it, be involved in it, and learn. Get outside the industry and learn. Attend seminars, spend money, listen to marketers, if you need motivation, go to Tony Robbins or any of those guys. We got a plethora of people. My day it was Jim Rohn, who was his coach. It was Paul J. Myers. educate yourself. There's no, and I don't mean go back to school and get a degree. I mean, find out how to make money and get crap done. Okay. I almost said the S word. So, but get stuff done.
I kind of wish now people just jump to the end, guys. Just jump to the end, listen to that part. I love the work the brain operate inside your. Oof. I honestly, I cannot wait to have you speak and just be in your presence. I mean, it's gonna be so cool to be in your presence and hear you speak, drop some nuggets, collaborate with cleaners live. Like, I'm gonna be like, I'm nerding out really intensely. Listen to what you got to say. I gotta thank you for your time, and it was truly, really knowledgeable.
Well, on that, I am super excited to meet your other speakers. I'm Alex and Jessica. I can't wait to listen to them and talk with them. I'm going to get more out of that than I'm going to give. I'll tell you that. Just meeting people. And remember, the whole idea isn't just to hear us talk. It's to meet other people in the industry. It's to share ideas. It's to cross-pollinate, whatever you want to call it. And you only get those opportunities when you come to these type of things. That doesn't happen on Zoom calls. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And that's part of what happened at BSCAI when you went to those events. There you
Mark,
go.
thank you so much, man. We're gonna go ahead and tag your LinkedIn profile below. We'll tag your guys' website below, and can't wait to meet you in November. And just thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure. I love talking to you guys. It's always good stuff. All right.